My daughter looked me straight in the eyes and called me confused. Right there in my own kitchen. And 12 strangers sitting at my table all nodded their heads like they agreed. My name is Margaret Wells. I'm 68 years old. I raised Emma by myself after her daddy ran off when she was just a baby. I worked 3 cleaning jobs so she could have nice clothes for school. I saved every penny so she could go to college. I gave her my whole heart. I thought being a good mama meant giving everything away. I didn't know I was teaching her to take without saying thank you. Last Thursday, Emma sent me a message on my phone. "Sorry Mom, dinner's cancelled tonight. Something came up at work. But I drove by early anyway because I'd made her favorite cookies." That's when I saw all those cars parked outside my house. So many cars lined up like it was some kind of party. I walked up quiet to the window and peeked inside. 15 people were sitting around my dinner table eating food from my kitchen. And my Emma was standing there like she owned the place, talking about me like I wasn't even a real person anymore. "Mom's memory is getting bad," Emma told everyone. "She can't take care of herself anymore. We need to make decisions for her now." I stood there in my own flower garden, the one I planted 20 years ago, listening to strangers talk about taking away my life. They had papers spread all over my table. Charts and graphs and official-looking documents. All about me. All about my money. All about my house. Emma pointed to different papers while she talked. "The house is worth about $500,000 now. If we don't act fast, she might give it all away to some telephone scammer." Everyone laughed a little. Like it was funny that I might be tricked. Like I was some silly old lady who didn't know better. But I knew exactly what was happening. I pulled out my phone real quiet and started recording everything through that window. Every single word. Every lie my daughter told about me. Let me tell you something important before I finish this story. Write down below where you're watching from and what the clock says right now. And please hit that subscribe button for Granny's voice so you can hear more stories like mine. Because what I'm about to tell you next will surprise you real good. 30 years ago I was nobody special. Just a young mama with a baby and no husband to help. I worked at the grocery store during the day. I cleaned offices at night. And on weekends I watched other people's kids to make extra money. My hands hurt all the time from scrubbing floors. My back ached from lifting heavy things. But I never complained because little Emma needed food and clothes and a roof over her head. Her daddy left us when Emma was only 2 months old. Just walked right out the door one morning and never came back. Didn't leave a note. Didn't leave any money. Just gone like smoke. Cried for 3 days straight. Then I dried my tears and got to work because babies don't stop needing things just because their daddies are cowards. I worked so hard my shoes wore out every few months. The grocery store didn't pay much, but they let me bring home food that was about to go bad. The office cleaning paid better, but I had to work from 10 at night until 6 in the morning. I'd come home just when Emma was waking up, give her breakfast, then catch a few hours of sleep before my grocery shift started. When Emma turned 5, she wanted to take dance classes. All her friends from kindergarten were dancers. She came home crying one day because she was the only one who couldn't join. Those classes cost $75 a month. That was groceries for 2 weeks. But I looked at her sad little face and I found a way. I took on extra babysitting jobs. I said yes to every shift the grocery store offered. Emma got her dance classes. She was so happy. She'd practice her moves in our tiny living room, spinning around and jumping and laughing. That smile made every extra hour of work worth it. That's what being a mama means. You do whatever it takes to see your child smile. The years went by fast. Emma grew tall and smart. She got good grades in school. She won awards for her science projects. She made me proud every single day. When she was 16, she said she wanted to go to State University. That school cost more money than I'd ever seen in my whole life. Tuition, books, a dorm room, food. The number made me dizzy when I added it all up. But I'd been saving. Every spare dollar went into a coffee can I kept hidden in my closet. $5 here. $10 there. Sometimes just coins. That can got heavier year by year. By the time Emma graduated high school, I had almost $10,000 saved up. It wasn't enough for all 4 years, but it was a start. I took out loans for the rest. Signed papers promising to pay back money I didn't have. The bank lady looked at me funny when she saw how much I made. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. I was sure. Emma deserved a chance at a better life than mine. College changed Emma. She came home for Christmas break her first year wearing fancy clothes I didn't recognize. She talked different, using big words I didn't understand. She brought a boyfriend home who looked at our small house like it smelled bad. That hurt my feelings, but I smiled anyway. I wanted Emma to be happy. "Mom, you really should update this place," Emma said while looking around our kitchen. "It's so old-fashioned." Old-fashioned meant I couldn't afford new things. But I just nodded and served dinner on the same plates we'd used since she was little. The visits got shorter as the years went on. Emma got busy with her new life. After college, she got a job at a big company in the city. She married a man named Richard who wore expensive suits and never smiled at me. They had a big wedding that I helped pay for even though Richard's family had plenty of money. Emma and Richard bought a huge house in a neighborhood where every lawn looked perfect. They had 2 kids, my grandbabies. But I hardly ever got to see them. "We're so busy, Mom," Emma would say when I asked to visit. "Maybe next month." Then something changed about 3 years ago. Emma started calling me more often. First I was so happy. My daughter wanted to talk to me again. But the conversations felt strange. She asked lots of questions about my money. "Mom, how much is your house worth now? Do you have a retirement account? What about life insurance?" I thought she was just worried about me getting older. Thought she cared. The visits started up again too. Every Tuesday, Emma would come over for dinner. I was so excited to have this special time with my daughter. I'd cook all day making her favorite foods. Pot roast with potatoes. Apple pie like I used to make when she was little. I'd set the table nice with the good dishes. But those Tuesday dinners didn't feel warm like they should. Emma would ask more questions while we ate. "Mom, who's in charge of your bank accounts? Do you have a will? Have you thought about what happens to this house after you're gone?" After I'm gone. Like she was already planning my funeral. Her husband Richard came to dinner sometimes too. He'd walk around my house looking at things. Touching my furniture. Opening closets. "This is a nice solid house," he'd say. "Good bones. Worth a lot of money in this market." He talked about my home like it was already his to sell. They brought papers for me to sign. Legal documents with tiny words that hurt my eyes to read. "Just sign here, Mom," Emma would say, pointing to a line at the bottom. "This just makes sure everything is protected." Protected from what? I'd ask. Protected from problems later. She'd answer without really answering. I started to feel uncomfortable in my own house during those dinners. Like I was a guest instead of the owner. Emma would rearrange things in my kitchen. "Mom, you should keep the cups over here instead. It makes more sense." She'd throw away my old dish towels and bring new ones. "These are better quality." One time I found her going through the papers in my desk. "Mom, your filing system is a mess," she said. "Let me organize this for you." But those were my private papers. My bills, my bank statements, my personal business. Why did she need to organize them? Richard would walk around taking pictures of the house with his phone. "Just for memories," he said. But what kind of memories do you need pictures of somebody else's walls for? I started to feel like they were measuring my life, weighing it, calculating its value. The worst part was how they talked about me right in front of me. Like I couldn't hear them or didn't understand. "Mom's been forgetting things lately," Emma told Richard during one dinner. I hadn't forgotten anything. "Yesterday she called me twice asking the same question," Emma said. That was a lie. I'd only called once. "We should talk to a doctor about memory tests," Richard said, cutting his pot roast. Memory tests for what? I was fine. I remembered everything. Every birthday, every holiday, every promise I'd ever made. My memory worked just fine. They left pamphlets on my coffee table. Senior living communities. Assisted care facilities. Places with pictures of old people sitting in wheelchairs looking sad. Just information, Mom, Emma said. In case you ever need it someday. But I didn't need it. I wasn't going anywhere. Then they wanted me to sign something called a power of attorney. It just means I can help you with things if you need help, Emma explained. But when I read the paper carefully, it said she could do anything she wanted with my money. With my house. With everything I owned. Without even asking me. I don't think I want to sign this right now, I said, putting the paper down. Emma's face changed. Her smile disappeared. Her eyes got hard and cold. Mom, don't you trust me? She asked. Of course I trusted her. She was my daughter. But something felt wrong about signing away control of my whole life. Let me think about it, I said. Emma and Richard left early that night. Didn't finish dinner. Didn't help clean up. Just took their papers and left. Emma didn't call me for 2 whole weeks after that. No Tuesday dinner invitation. No checking in to see how I was doing. Just silence. That silence hurt worse than anything. I'd raised her alone. Given her everything. Worked until my body hurt so she could have a good life. And now she was punishing me with silence because I wouldn't sign a paper. What kind of daughter does that to her mama? I called my old friend Betty, who lives 2 houses down. We've been neighbors for 30 years. I told her everything that was happening. Margaret, you need to be careful, Betty said. My sister went through something similar with her son. He took everything from her. She ended up with nothing. That scared me real bad. Could Emma really take everything? The house I'd worked 30 years to pay off? The savings I'd scraped together penny by penny? The life I'd built with my own 2 hands. I needed to know the truth about what I'd signed years ago. See, here's something I haven't told you yet. Back when Emma was 23, right after she got her first real job, my lawyer friend Dorothy suggested I set up something called a trust. It's a way to protect your assets, Dorothy explained. And it can help with taxes later. I didn't understand all the legal words Dorothy used. But she said if I put everything in a trust with Emma's name on it, it would be easier when I got older. Emma could help manage things. Sounded smart at the time. Emma had just graduated college. She was responsible and good with money. Why wouldn't I trust her? So I signed the papers. Put my house in the trust. Put my savings in the trust. Put everything I owned into this legal thing I didn't really understand. Emma was listed as the trustee. That meant she could manage it all. I thought I was being a smart mama, planning ahead. But Dorothy had put something special in those papers. Something I'd completely forgotten about until last month when I called her in a panic. Dorothy, can Emma take my house away from me? I asked, my voice shaking. We need to look at your paperwork, Dorothy said. She came over that same day with a big folder. We sat at my kitchen table. The same table where Emma had been asking all those questions. Dorothy spread out papers and showed me something important. Margaret, look here at page 19, she said, pointing to words I'd never noticed before. You created a revocable trust. That means you can change it anytime you want. Revocable. That was the magic word. Emma thinks she owns everything, Dorothy explained. And legally, the trust does say her name. But you're the grantor. You made this trust. And you kept the power to unmake it. My hands were shaking as Dorothy explained. You mean I can take it all back? Dorothy nodded. Every bit of it. With just one phone call and some signatures. For 15 years, I'd thought I'd given everything away forever. Thought I'd signed away my security, my home, my future. But I hadn't. I'd been protected this whole time and didn't even know it. Dorothy had protected me, probably knowing someday I might need this safety net. A mother's love makes us do foolish things sometimes, Dorothy said softly. But I tried to build in some insurance. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all those Tuesday dinners. All those questions. All that pretend caring that was really just Emma counting up her inheritance while I was still alive. Still healthy. Still able to take care of myself just fine. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. But I didn't do anything yet. I needed to know for sure what Emma was planning. Was I being paranoid? Was I imagining things because I was lonely and sad that my daughter seemed different now? Maybe I was wrong about all of it. This house holds every memory of the life I built. The kitchen where I taught Emma to make chocolate chip cookies when she was 6. The living room where we watched movies together on Friday nights, sharing a bowl of popcorn. The bathroom where I helped her get ready for her first school dance, curling her hair while she giggled. I planted every flower in the garden outside. The roses by the front door are 30 years old. I've watered them through every summer, protected them through every winter. They bloom pink and yellow every spring, just as beautiful now as the day I planted them. This house isn't just walls and a roof. It's my whole life in physical form. Emma used to love this house. She'd bring friends over after school. They'd do homework at the kitchen table while I made them snacks. On Christmas, she'd decorate every room with lights and tinsel. She'd wake up early and run downstairs to see what Santa brought, even though she knew it was really just me. But somewhere along the way, Emma stopped seeing home. Started seeing dollar signs instead. "This neighborhood is really valuable now, Mom," she'd say while looking at her phone. "Houses here are selling for crazy amounts." She'd walk through rooms like she was doing math in her head, adding up values, calculating profits, planning a future sale. She stopped noticing the things that mattered. Didn't see the growth chart pencil marks on the doorframe showing how tall she got each year. Didn't remember the handprints we painted on the basement wall when she was 8. Didn't care about the garden she used to help me plant every spring. Just saw square footage and market value and investment potential. "You're rattling around in all this space, Mom," she'd say. "You should downsize. Sell this place and move somewhere smaller." Smaller meant cheaper. Meant she could have the money now instead of waiting. Meant she could turn my memories into cash. I played along for a while because I thought maybe she was right. Maybe I was being stubborn holding on to this big house. Maybe it would be easier to live somewhere smaller. But every time I thought about leaving, my heart hurt. This was where I'd raised my baby. Where I'd cried when times were hard. Where I'd celebrated every good thing that ever happened to us. How could I leave that behind? Emma started bringing me grocery money every month. "Here's $200, Mom. For food and bills." She'd hand me cash like she was helping me out. Like I was poor and needed her charity. But I had my own money. I had Social Security and a small pension from years of working. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't broke either. I didn't need her money. But I took it anyway because I thought it made her feel good. Thought it made her feel like a good daughter taking care of her mama. I didn't realize she was keeping track. Adding it all up. Using it later to prove I couldn't manage my own finances. Things started disappearing from my house. Small things at first. The good silver spoons my grandmother gave me. "Mom, these were just sitting in a drawer," Emma said. "I'll keep them safe at my house." But they were mine. They were supposed to stay with me. Then my mama's ring went missing. A simple gold band not worth much money but worth everything to me. "I don't know where it went," Emma said when I asked about it. But I knew where it went. My gardening tools vanished from the shed. "Richard borrowed them," Emma said. "He'll bring them back." He never did. When I asked again, Emma got annoyed. "Mom, you don't garden much anymore anyway. What do you need them for?" "Garden just fine. I gardened every week. Those tools were mine." Then Emma took something bigger. "A car." "Mom, you're not driving as well as you used to," she announced one Tuesday. "We saw you almost hit a mailbox last week." I never almost hit any mailbox. That was another lie. "We're going to keep your car at our house for now. Just until we know it's safe." They took my keys right off my kitchen counter. Drove away in my car that I'd paid for with my own money. Left me with no way to get to the grocery store or the doctor or anywhere else. "We'll take you wherever you need to go, Mom," Emma promised. "Just call us." But when I called needing a ride to the store, Emma was always too busy. "Can it wait until next week?" she'd ask. "We have plans this weekend." So I had to ask neighbors for rides. Had to feel like a burden to people who were just being nice. Had to depend on others because my own daughter took away my independence. The final straw came when Emma gave herself a key to my house. Just for emergencies, she said. But emergencies turned into any time she wanted. I came home from Betty's house one afternoon to find Emma and Richard in my living room with 3 strangers. "Mom, you're back early," Emma said, looking surprised and not happy to see me. "What's going on here?" "Yes. Just showing some friends around," Richard said casually. But these weren't friends. They were looking at the house like buyers, writing notes on clipboards, taking measurements, planning something I wasn't supposed to know about. "We were just leaving," Emma said quickly, herding everyone toward the door. "We'll call you later, Mom." They left me standing alone in my own living room, feeling like a stranger in my own home. Like I'd interrupted something important. Like I was in the way of their plans. That's when Emma's in-laws moved in. Not to visit, to live. Richard's parents, Sharon and Frank, showed up one Monday with suitcases. "They're going to stay in your guest room for a while, Mom," Emma announced. Not asked. Announced. "Their house is being renovated." Sharon and Frank acted like they owned the place from day one. Sharon rearranged my entire kitchen the first morning. "You're organizing this all wrong, Margaret," she said, moving my dishes around. "Let me fix it for you." But I'd had my dishes in the same place for 30 years. I knew where everything was. Now I couldn't find anything in my own kitchen. Frank took over the living room, moved my furniture around, changed the TV to channels I didn't watch, turned the volume up so loud the windows shook. "Frank's a little hard of hearing," Sharon explained. "So my whole house had to be loud all the time because Frank wouldn't wear his hearing aids. They made rules in my house. My house. Quiet time is after 8 o'clock, Sharon announced at dinner. Margaret needs her rest. But I didn't go to bed at 8 o'clock. I'd stay up reading until 11 most nights. Now I couldn't turn on lights or watch TV or do anything because Sharon decided I needed rest. "Breakfast is at 7 sharp, Frank said. "We don't want to wait around for you to wake up, Margaret." But I'd been waking up at 6 every morning for 40 years. I didn't need Frank telling me when to eat breakfast in my own house. They talked about me in third person like I wasn't sitting right there. "Margaret gets confused easily," Sharon told her husband at dinner. I didn't get confused about anything. "She forgot to lock the door yesterday," Frank said. "I never forgot to lock any door." They were making up stories about me, and I didn't understand why. The 2 weeks they promised turned into a month. Then 2 months. Their house renovations seemed to have no end date. When I finally asked when they were leaving, Emma got defensive. "Mom, they're family. Family helps each other out." But they weren't helping me out. They were taking over my life. I tried to stand up for myself. "Emma, I want my house back," I said during one Tuesday dinner. "I want Sharon and Frank to leave. I want my car back. I want my own life back." Emma's face turned cold. Hard. "Mom, you need to understand something," she said slowly, like talking to a child. "You're not capable of living alone anymore. We're taking care of you now. You should be grateful." Grateful. I should be grateful that my daughter stole my car, moved strangers into my house, and treated me like a child. That word made something break inside me. "This is my house," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm not going anywhere, and neither are Sharon and Frank unless I say so." Emma stood up from the table. "Actually, Mom, legally this house belongs to the trust. And I'm the trustee. So technically I make the decisions now." The room went silent. Richard smiled into his napkin. Sharon and Frank nodded like this made perfect sense. And I sat there realizing my daughter had been planning this takeover for years. Everything made sense now. Tuesday dinners. Questions. Paperwork. The moving in of relatives. This was all part of a plan to take control of my life while I was still alive. "You're becoming a burden, Mom," Emma said quietly. "We're trying to help you, but you won't let us. Someone has to make adult decisions here." Burden. My own daughter called me a burden to my face while 4 strangers nodded agreement. That word hurt worse than anything ever had. Worse than her daddy leaving. Worse than working 3 jobs while exhausted. Worse than any pain I'd ever felt. Burden. That night, I sat in my bedroom with the door locked. I couldn't stop crying. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd sacrificed, everything I'd given her with love. And she thought I was a burden. Picked up my phone and called Dorothy. It was 10 o'clock at night, but I didn't care. "Dorothy, I need your help," I said through tears. "I need to take back my life." Dorothy came over the next morning. We sat in my car in the driveway so nobody could hear us. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Margaret?" she asked. "Once we do this, there's no going back. Emma will know you never really gave up control." I looked at my house. At the strangers looking out the windows. At the life being stolen from me piece by piece. "I'm sure," I said. "Tell me what I need to do." Dorothy explained everything in simple words. "We'll revoke the trust. Transfer everything back into your name only. Emma will have no legal claim to anything. The house becomes yours again completely. The bank accounts become yours. Everything returns to how it was before you signed those papers 15 years ago. Can we do it fast?" "Yes. As fast as you want," Dorothy said. "I can file the paperwork this afternoon. By tomorrow morning, everything will be in your name only." My heart was beating so fast. What will Emma do when she finds out? Dorothy's face was serious. "She'll be very angry. Very upset. This will change everything between you two." Thought about that. Thought about the daughter I'd raised with so much love. The daughter who now called me a burden. The daughter who was stealing my life while pretending to help me. "She already changed everything," I said quietly. "I'm just protecting myself now." Tuesday came around again. Our dinner night. But this Tuesday was different. At 6 o'clock I got a text message from Emma. "Sorry Mom, dinner's cancelled. Emergency at work." But I knew better now. I knew Emma was planning something. That morning Sharon had asked me weird questions. "Margaret, do you remember what year you bought this house? What's your mother's maiden name? Where were you born?" Security questions. The kind you need to access bank accounts. Texted Emma back. "No problem, sweetie. Feel better." But I didn't believe her emergency for 1 second. At 5 o'clock, I drove past her work building. The parking lot was almost empty. No emergency lights. No busy office workers running around. Just an empty building at the end of the day. Emma had lied to me. Again. But this time I was going to find out why. I drove toward my house slowly. When I turned onto my street, I couldn't believe what I saw. Cars everywhere. 10, 12, maybe 15 cars lined up and down the street. All parked near my house. My heart started beating fast. Something big was happening. Something I wasn't invited to. Something they didn't want me to know about. I parked 3 houses down at Betty's place. Walked through her backyard and came up to my house from the side. The dining room curtains were open just a little bit. Just enough for me to see inside without being seen. And what I saw made my blood run cold. 15 people sitting around my dining room table. Emma at the head where I always sat. Richard beside her. Sharon and Frank. And a bunch of people in business suits I'd never seen before. Lawyers maybe. Financial people. Strangers in my house eating food from my kitchen while discussing something very serious. I pulled out my phone real quiet. Started recording video through that window. Made sure the sound was on so I could hear every single word. My hands were shaking but I kept that camera steady. This was evidence. Proof of whatever they were planning. Emma stood up and tapped her wine glass. Everyone got quiet and looked at her. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she said. "I know Tuesday evening isn't convenient, but my mother's situation can't wait any longer." My situation. Like I was a problem that needed solving. Like I was a leaking pipe or a broken fence. Situation. One of the suit-wearing women opened a folder. Based on our assessment, Margaret Wells shows clear signs of cognitive decline and memory loss. Assessment. When did anyone assess me? This woman had never even met me. How could she assess anything? She's no longer capable of managing her own finances or making sound decisions, the woman continued. More lies. Complete lies. But who would believe me against all these official-looking people with their folders and fancy words? The house alone is valued at $480,000, Richard said, pointing to papers spread across my table. Plus savings and investments bring the total estate to approximately $650,000. Estate. Like I was already dead. Like they were already counting up what they'd get from my funeral. In the wrong hands, this wealth could disappear quickly, Emma added. Mom's vulnerable to scams, to making poor choices. We need to protect her from herself. Protect me from myself. That's what they called taking everything I owned. Protection. Charts appeared on someone's laptop screen. Medical terms I couldn't fully see. Graphs showing my supposed decline. Papers documenting all my so-called mistakes. They'd built an entire case against my mental state. Against my ability to live my own life. And they did it without me knowing. Behind my back. In secret. A man in a gray suit spoke up. I've drawn up paperwork for full conservatorship. This will give Emma complete control over all assets and medical decisions. Conservatorship. I knew that word. That's what they do to people who can't think straight anymore. People with real dementia or serious mental problems. But I was fine. My mind worked perfectly. This was all made up. How soon can we file? Emma asked. As soon as Margaret signs the papers, the lawyer said. Or if she refuses, we can petition the court based on our medical assessment and documented incidents of declining capacity. They were going to trick me into signing away my rights. Or force me through court if I said no. Either way, they were going to take everything. The room buzzed with quiet conversation. People nodding. People agreeing with this plan to steal my life. Sharon laughed at something Frank whispered. Like this was entertaining. Like destroying me was funny. What about the house? Someone asked. Will Margaret have to move to a facility? Emma pretended to look sad. Unfortunately, yes. She needs 24-hour care. We've already looked at some nice places. They're expensive, but we'll use her assets to pay for it. Use my assets to lock me away. Spend my money to put me in a home. Sell my house and keep the profit. That was the plan. That was what protection really meant. I'd heard enough. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. But I kept recording. Every word. Every lie. Every betrayal. All saved on my phone as evidence. I backed away from that window as quietly as I could. Walked back through Betty's yard to my car. Sat in the driver's seat trying to breathe normally. Trying to understand that my own daughter had just planned my entire future without me. Had invited 15 strangers to help take away my freedom. Had lied to my face while stealing my life. I drove to the Waffle House on Route 9. The one that's open all night. Sat in a corner booth with coffee I didn't drink and pie I couldn't eat. My phone sat on the table showing that video. That proof. That evidence of what my daughter really thought of me. I watched it 3 times. Each time hurt worse than the last. She needs 24-hour care. Emma's voice on the video. We'll use her assets to pay for it. Cold. Calculated. Not even pretending to care about what I wanted. About where I wanted to live. About how I wanted to spend my final years. Just money and control and putting me away somewhere she wouldn't have to deal with me. But sitting in that booth, something changed inside me. The hurt mama started to fade away. Replaced by something stronger. Something that remembered I wasn't helpless. Wasn't confused. Wasn't the burden they thought I was. I was the one who'd protected myself 15 years ago. The one who'd kept the power to take it all back. And tomorrow I was going to use that power. Wednesday morning I called Dorothy at 8 o'clock sharp. I watched them plan my future last night, I told her. 15 people in my house deciding where I'll live and how my money gets spent. I recorded the whole thing. Dorothy's voice got hard. Forward me that video right now. And meet me at my office in 1 hour. We're ending this today. I drove straight to Dorothy's office. She was already there with papers spread out on her desk. Margaret, I filed the trust revocation yesterday afternoon like you asked. As of now, everything is back in your name. Emma has no legal authority over anything. But we need to make sure she can't challenge this. The video I'd recorded played on Dorothy's computer. She watched it twice, taking notes. Her mouth got tighter and tighter as she listened to Emma lie about me. This is elder abuse, Dorothy said quietly. Financial exploitation. What they're planning is actually illegal. What do I do now? Yes. Dorothy started writing. First, we change all your bank accounts. New bank, new accounts, new passwords. Second, we change the locks on your house. Third, we file a restraining order keeping Emma and Richard away from your property. Fourth, we send official notice that you've revoked the trust and they have no legal claim to anything. My hands were shaking again, but this time from strength, not fear. How fast can we do all this? Yes. Dorothy smiled for the first time that morning. We can have most of it done by this afternoon. The rest by tomorrow morning. We started making calls right away. First the bank. This is Margaret Wells. I need to close all my accounts and open new ones at a different bank. The banker asked why. Family issues, I said simply. I need fresh accounts where nobody else has access. Within 2 hours, every dollar I owned was moved to a new bank across town. A bank Emma didn't know about. Accounts with passwords only I knew. Dorothy called a locksmith while I watched. I need every lock changed on a house by end of day. This is an emergency situation. The locksmith said he'd be there by 3 o'clock. Then Dorothy called a moving company. I need a crew to remove belongings from a home and put them in storage. Today, if possible. They could come at 4 o'clock. What belongings? Yes. Dorothy looked up from her phone. Everything that belongs to Emma, Richard, Sharon, and Frank. We're moving them out whether they like it or not. This is your house, Margaret. Time to take it back. My heart was beating so fast. This was really happening. After months of feeling helpless and controlled and pushed around, I was finally fighting back. Finally taking back my own life. And it felt scary and powerful and right all at the same time. We drove to my house at 2 o'clock. Sharon was in the kitchen making lunch. She looked surprised to see me with Dorothy. Margaret, you didn't tell us you were bringing company, Sharon said like she was the hostess of my house. Sharon, you need to pack your things, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. You and Frank are leaving today. Sharon laughed. Actually laughed. Don't be silly, Margaret. We're staying until our house is ready. Emma said so. I walked right up close to her. Emma doesn't make decisions about my house anymore. You do. And I'm telling you to pack and leave. Now. Sharon's smile disappeared. We'll see what Emma has to say about this. She pulled out her phone to call my daughter. But I didn't care. Let her call. Let Emma find out her plan had fallen apart. Let them all know I wasn't the confused old lady they thought I was. The locksmith arrived at 3 o'clock exactly. Change every single lock, I told him. Front door, back door, garage, shed, everything. Sharon watched from the kitchen window with her mouth hanging open. Frank came out of the guest room looking confused. What's going on here? He demanded. You're being evicted, Dorothy said calmly. This is Margaret's property and she wants you out. You can't do that. Frank's face turned red. We have rights. We've been living here for months. Dorothy pulled out papers from her briefcase. Actually, you have no rights. You're guests who've overstayed your welcome. If you're not out by 6 o'clock, Margaret will call the police and have you removed for trespassing. The movers arrived at 4 o'clock. Big truck for strong men ready to work. Everything in the guest room goes into storage, I told them. Everything in the garage that doesn't belong to me. All of it gets moved out today. They got to work immediately, carrying boxes and suitcases and bags full of Sharon and Frank's stuff. Sharon was crying now. Actually crying like she was the victim here. How can you be so cruel, Margaret? She sobbed. We're family. Family takes care of each other. But they weren't my family. They were strangers who'd invaded my home, made rules about my bedtime, reorganized my kitchen, and helped plan to lock me away in some facility. That's not family. That's enemies. Frank called Richard. Then Richard called Emma. Within 30 minutes, my daughter's car came speeding down the street. She jumped out and ran toward the house. But the locksmith had just finished. The locks were changed. Emma's key didn't work anymore. She stood on my porch, trying her key over and over, getting angrier each time it didn't turn. "Mom, open this door right now," Emma shouted, pounding with her fist. I walked to the door but didn't open it. Just spoke through it. "Emma, you're not welcome here anymore." "What are you talking about?" Emma's voice was high and panicked. "This is my house. You gave it to me. Open the door." I opened it just a crack, keeping the chain lock on. "This was never your house, Emma. It was always mine. I just let you think otherwise. But I took it back. All of it. The house, the accounts, everything." Emma's face went white, then red, then white again. "You can't do that. We have a trust. Legal documents. You signed papers." Dorothy appeared beside me. "The trust has been legally revoked as of yesterday afternoon. Margaret retained full authority to do so. You have no claim to any of her assets." Emma's mouth opened and closed like a fish. For once, she had nothing to say. No smooth explanation. No legal words. Just shock and anger and the realization that her plan had completely failed. Richard pushed forward. "You're making a huge mistake, Margaret. You're clearly not thinking straight. We'll have you declared incompetent in court. We have medical evidence, documented incidents, witnesses." Held up my phone. "I have evidence too. Video of 15 people in my house plotting to steal my life. Every word recorded. Every lie documented. Want to go to court? I'll show the judge exactly what kind of help you were planning." Richard's face went pale. Emma looked like she might throw up. They knew I had them. Knew their whole scheme was exposed. Knew they couldn't talk their way out of recorded evidence. "You were outside recording us," Emma whispered. "You were inside lying about me," I answered. "To strangers. Calling me confused and incapable and a burden. Your own mother." Tears started running down Emma's face. But they weren't sad tears. They were angry tears. Frustrated tears. Tears of someone who'd lost something they thought they deserved. "After everything I've done for you," she shouted. "Everything I've sacrificed. And this is how you repay me." "Repay you?" My voice got loud then. Louder than I'd spoken in years. "I raised you alone. I worked 3 jobs so you could have dance classes. I took out loans so you could go to college. I gave you everything I had. And you call me a burden. You plan to lock me away and steal my house. That's how you repay me." The moving truck started pulling away with Sharon and Frank's belongings. Sharon and Frank themselves were in Richard's car, having been forced out of my house. The locksmith handed me a set of new keys. Keys that only I had. Keys to my own house that was finally mine again. "Mom, please." Emma tried again, her voice softer now. "Let's talk about this. We can work it out. I was just trying to help. But I was done believing her lies. Done letting her manipulate me with fake concern. Done being treated like a child in my own life." "Dorothy has papers for you," I said. "Official notice that you're to stay away from me and my property. If you come back, I'll call the police." Emma looked at Dorothy, who held out a manila envelope. "Restraining order," Dorothy said simply. "Stay at least 500 feet away from Margaret's property. No phone calls. No contact of any kind." Emma didn't take the envelope. Just stared at it like it was a snake. "You can't do this. I'm your daughter." "You were my daughter," I said quietly. "But the daughter I raised would never call her mother a burden. Would never plot to steal her home. Would never lie and scheme and manipulate. I don't know who you are anymore, Emma. But you're not my little girl." Closed the door then. Locked it with my new lock. Stood in my own entryway listening to Emma cry on the other side. Part of me wanted to open that door. Wanted to hug her and forgive her and pretend none of this happened. That's what mamas do. We forgive. We make excuses. We put our children first no matter what. But I couldn't do that anymore. Couldn't let her destroy me just because I loved her. Sometimes loving someone means protecting yourself from them. Dorothy stayed with me that evening while I changed all my passwords. Email, bank accounts, credit cards, everything. Every digital door that Emma might use to get back into my life got locked tight. "You're doing the right thing, Margaret," Dorothy said while I worked. "Elder abuse is serious. What they were planning is criminal." That night, I slept in my own house alone for the first time in 3 months. No Sharon making rules about quiet time. No Frank turning the TV up too loud. No strangers walking through my rooms like they owned the place. Just me and silence and peace I hadn't felt in so long. The next morning I started cleaning. Washing away every trace of the people who'd invaded my life. I scrubbed the guest room from top to bottom. Washed all the sheets and towels. Opened the windows to let in fresh air. Then I brought my mama's sewing machine down from the attic and set it up in there. The room became mine again. A place for my hobbies instead of unwanted guests. I rearranged the kitchen back to how I liked it. Cups in the cabinet where they'd always been. Dishes in their proper spots. My organizational system that worked perfectly fine for 30 years. Felt good putting things right. Taking back control of my own space. The bank called to confirm all my new accounts were set up. "And you're sure you don't want any joint account holders?" the banker asked. "I'm absolutely sure," I said. "Just me. Only me." For the first time in 15 years, every dollar I had was truly mine alone. Nobody else's name on anything. Nobody else with access to my money. Just me making my own decisions about my own finances. Dorothy helped me write a new will. "Who do you want to leave things to when you're gone?" she asked gently. Thought about that. Emma had been my only child. My only family. But I couldn't leave everything to someone who'd tried to steal it while I was alive. "Charities," I said finally. "Organizations that help single mothers. Scholarships for kids who need college money. Food banks that feed hungry families. People who understand struggle and gratitude." Dorothy wrote it all down. "And Emma gets nothing?" she asked, making sure I was certain. He nodded. "Emma made her choice. This is mine." Over the next few weeks, Emma tried everything to contact me. She called from different phone numbers. I blocked them all. She sent letters. I returned them unopened. She showed up at the grocery store coincidentally when I was shopping. I turned around and left without speaking to her. She sent Richard to my door with flowers. I didn't answer. She had Sharon and Frank write me letters apologizing. I threw them away without reading them. Every attempt made me sadder but also made me stronger. Each time I said no to her manipulation, I felt more like myself again. More like the strong woman who'd raised a child alone. More like the person I'd been before I let Emma make me feel small and confused and burdensome. My neighbor Betty became a good friend during this time. We'd have coffee together in my kitchen, the one I'd organized my way. "You did the right thing," Betty said one afternoon. "I've watched you get smaller and smaller these past few months. Now you're growing back." She was right. I was growing back. Finding pieces of myself I'd lost. I started going to the senior center downtown. Not because I needed help or supervision but because I wanted to. They had art classes and book clubs and exercise groups. I met other women my age who'd lived full, interesting lives. Who weren't anybody's burden. Who had value and wisdom and stories worth hearing. I joined a volunteer group that delivered meals to people who really couldn't get out. Elderly folks who were actually housebound. Disabled people who genuinely needed assistance. Real people with real needs, not made-up problems invented to steal their homes. Helping them made me feel useful. Reminded me that I still had plenty to offer the world. That 68 wasn't the end of life. It was just another chapter. My garden bloomed that spring more beautiful than it had in years. I spent hours out there planting new flowers, pulling weeds, talking to my roses like old friends. "We made it through," I'd tell them while watering. "We're still here. Still growing. Still beautiful." The pink and yellow roses didn't care about trust funds or legal battles. They just kept blooming every year, faithful and constant and true. I started taking my car out for long drives on Sunday afternoons. The car Emma said I couldn't drive safely. The car they'd stolen from me. I drove perfectly fine. No mailboxes hit. No accidents. No problems at all. Just me and the open road and the freedom to go wherever I wanted whenever I wanted. Sometimes I'd drive with no destination. Just turn down roads I'd never been on before. Explore new places. Feel the thrill of independence that nobody could take away from me anymore. 6 months after that terrible Tuesday dinner, I got a letter from Emma's lawyer. Not Emma herself. Her lawyer. The letter was full of legal words, but the meaning was simple. Emma was offering to drop any future legal claims against me if I'd agree to give her $50,000 now. Basically, she was trying to buy her way back into my will. Trying to negotiate an inheritance before I was dead. The nerve of it made me laugh out loud. I showed the letter to Dorothy. "What do you want to do?" she asked. I tore that letter into tiny pieces. "I want to do nothing. Not a single dollar. Not a single word." She made her choice. Made mine. "We're done." Dorothy smiled and threw the pieces in her trash can. "Good for you, Margaret." That same week, I did something I'd been thinking about for months. I called the local women's shelter. "I'd like to make a donation," I told them, "to help single mothers get back on their feet." The director sounded so grateful. "Any amount helps," she said. "Even small donations make a difference." I donated $25,000. More money than I'd ever given away at once. Money that could help women like I'd been when Emma was little. Struggling mamas trying to give their babies a better life. The shelter named a room after me. The Margaret Wells Family Suite. A place where mothers and children could stay together while getting help. When they invited me to see it, I cried. Happy tears this time. This was my legacy. Not a house my daughter would sell. Not money she'd spend on herself. Real help for real people who needed it. I thought about Emma sometimes. Wondered how she was doing. Wondered if she ever understood what she'd really lost. Money can be earned back. Houses can be bought again. But trust, once completely broken, can't ever be fully repaired. I trusted her with my whole life, and she tried to use that trust to steal my freedom. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. People at church would ask about my daughter. "How's Emma doing?" they'd say after service. "I haven't seen her in a while." I'd smile and say, "We've gone separate ways. Sometimes that's best for everyone." Most people nodded like they understood. A few looked shocked. But I didn't owe anyone an explanation. My life, my choices, my peace. Dorothy told me later that Emma and Richard divorced. The stress of suddenly losing all that expected money was too much for their marriage. Turned out Sarah, Richard's first wife, had never really loved him. She'd loved his success and his future inheritance. When both disappeared, so did she. Emma lost her husband, her planned financial security, and her mother all at once. Part of me felt sad about that. She was still my baby girl somewhere under all that greed and entitlement. But mostly I felt relief. Relief that I'd protected myself. Relief that I'd been strong enough to say no. Relief that I'd chosen my own well-being over her manipulation. The house felt different now. Lighter. Happier. I'd reclaimed every room, every corner, every memory. This wasn't just property anymore. It was home again. My sanctuary. My safe place where nobody could make me feel small or confused or burdensome. I hung new pictures on the walls. Photos from my volunteer work. Pictures of my garden in bloom. Images of the second chapter of my life that I was writing on my own terms. I started hosting Tuesday dinners again. But this time I invited my real friends. Betty from next door. Dorothy, my lawyer. Women from the senior center. People who valued me for who I was, not what I owned. We'd eat and laugh and tell stories. No hidden agendas. No questions about my finances. No judgments about my age. Just friendship and respect and the joy of good company. One Tuesday evening, about 8 months after everything happened, my doorbell rang during dinner. Betty went to answer it since she was closest. She came back looking uncomfortable. "Margaret, Emma's at the door. She wants to talk to you." My friends all went quiet. They knew the story. Knew what Emma had done. Knew how much she'd hurt me. I stood up slowly, my heart pounding. Walked to the door where my daughter stood on the porch. She looked different. Thinner. Older. Tired. Her expensive clothes were gone, replaced by a simple outfit from some regular store. Her hair wasn't done perfectly. She looked human. Vulnerable. Real. "Mom," Emma said quietly. "Please. Can we talk? Just 5 minutes." I looked at her for a long moment. The baby I'd rocked to sleep. The little girl I'd taught to tie her shoes. The teenager I'd stayed up late worrying about. The college graduate I'd been so proud of. And the woman who'd called me a burden and tried to steal my life. "Emma, I've heard every excuse and apology already," I said. "What could you possibly say that would be different?" She had tears in her eyes. Real tears this time, not angry or frustrated ones. "I can't say anything that would make it different," she admitted. "I can't undo what I did. I can't erase the hurt. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I lost. Not the money. Not the house. I lost you." My friends were watching from the dining room, waiting to see what I'd do. Part of me wanted to slam that door. Protect myself from any more pain. But another part, the mama part that never fully goes away, wanted to hear what she had to say. "You have 5 minutes," I said. "Talk." Emma didn't come inside. Just stood on the porch and talked. "When Richard and I lost everything, I had time to really think about what happened. About who I'd become. I turned into someone who valued money more than people. Success more than love. I looked at you and saw dollar signs instead of my mother." She wiped her eyes. "I was so focused on building wealth that I forgot where I came from. Forgot that you worked 3 jobs so I could have dance lessons. Forgot that you took out loans for my college. Forgot every sacrifice you made because I was too busy planning what I'd do with your money when you died." I stood there listening, my hand on the doorframe to keep steady. "I don't have excuses," Emma continued. "I was greedy and selfish and cruel. I treated you worse than a stranger. I called you a burden when you've never been anything but a blessing. I planned to steal your freedom because I wanted your money. And I'm so sorry." The 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I let her keep talking. "I'm not asking for money," Emma said. "I'm not asking to be in your will. I'm not even asking for forgiveness because I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I finally see what I did. And I hate myself for it." She pulled an envelope from her pocket. "This is a check. For all the help money I gave you over the years. I realize now it wasn't help. It was me keeping track. Building a case that you couldn't manage alone. It was manipulation, not love." I looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "Emma, I don't want your money." She nodded. "I know. But I needed to offer it back. Needed to stop pretending I was helping when I was really just investing in my inheritance." The honesty hurt to hear. But at least it was honest. "Your 5 minutes are up," I said gently. Emma nodded and turned to leave. Then stopped. "Mom, one more thing. The women's shelter called me. They said you donated money in memory of all the single mothers who fight for their children. That's what you were, wasn't it? Fighting for me. And I repaid you by treating you like an enemy." She was crying harder now. "That donation is worth more than anything you could have left me in a will. 'Cause it helps people like you were. People who deserve help. I just wanted to say. That's who you really are. And I'm sorry I forgot." She walked to her car then. An old car, not the fancy one she used to drive. I watched her go, feeling a mix of sadness and relief and something else I couldn't name. Betty came up beside me. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "I think I am." That night I thought a lot about forgiveness. About whether some things can be forgiven even if they can't be forgotten. About whether understanding someone's regret means you have to let them back into your life. The answer I came to was complicated. I could forgive Emma for being weak and greedy. I could understand that she'd made mistakes. I could even hope she learned and grew from those mistakes. But I couldn't forget what she'd done. Couldn't forget the feeling of standing outside my own window watching strangers plan to take away my freedom. Couldn't forget being called a burden by the child I'd sacrificed everything for. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it just means letting go of the anger so it doesn't poison you. I could forgive Emma in my heart, but I couldn't let her back into my life. Some bridges once burned shouldn't be rebuilt. I wrote her a letter. Just one. Short and honest. Emma, I believe your regret is real. I believe you finally understand what you did. I forgive you for being human and making terrible mistakes. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. Trust, once broken as completely as you broke mine, can't be repaired with apologies. I wish you well. I hope you learn from this. I hope you become the person your younger self would have been proud of. But I can't have you in my life. Not now. Maybe not ever. Take care of yourself. Goodbye. I didn't include a return address. Didn't offer hope for future contact. Just gave her the truth cleanly and kindly. Closure without reunion. Peace without relationship. It was the best I could offer, and it was enough. I mailed that letter and felt something lift from my shoulders. The weight of anger. The burden of betrayal. The heaviness of broken trust. All of it lighter somehow. Not gone but manageable. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm after that. My Tuesday dinners with real friends continued. My volunteer work at the shelter expanded. I started teaching basic budgeting classes to the single mothers there, sharing everything I'd learned from years of stretching every dollar. The women would listen so carefully, taking notes, asking questions. "How did you afford college for your daughter?" one young mama asked. I told her honestly about the sacrifices and the loans and the 3 jobs. "Was it worth it?" she asked. Thought about that. About Emma and everything that happened. "The love was worth it," I said finally. "The lessons I taught weren't learned the way I hoped, but that's not my failure. I did my best. That's all any mama can do." The women's shelter director, Mrs. Patricia Chen, became a good friend. She understood complicated family situations because she'd lived through them too. "You saved yourself," she told me one day while we were having tea in the shelter's common room. "So many elderly people in your situation can't or won't stand up for themselves. They let their children take everything because they feel guilty or scared or confused. But you were strong enough to fight back." I thought about all the older people who didn't have a lawyer friend like Dorothy. Who didn't understand revocable trusts or their own rights. Who got bulldozed by greedy children and ended up losing everything they'd worked for their whole lives. "Maybe I should talk to people about this," I said. "Share my story so others know they have options." Patricia's eyes lit up. "Would you? We have senior groups that would love to hear from you. People need to know they can protect themselves. That being old doesn't mean being powerless." That's how I started speaking at senior centers and community groups. Telling my story. Warning people about the signs of financial exploitation. Teaching them about trusts and legal rights and the importance of protecting yourself even from family. Especially from family sometimes. The first time I spoke, I was so nervous my hands shook. But when I looked out at the audience and saw 30 older faces looking back at me with understanding and recognition, I knew this was important. If your children are asking unusual questions about your finances, I told them, pay attention. If they're pushing you to sign papers you don't understand, slow down. If they're making you feel confused or burdensome, trust your instincts. You probably aren't confused. You're probably being manipulated. An elderly man in the back raised his hand. But they're our kids. We raised them. How can we not trust them? I understood that question deep in my bones. We want to trust them, I said gently. We love them. But sometimes the people we love don't love us back the way they should. And we have to protect ourselves. After that first talk, 3 people came up to me with stories similar to mine. Children who'd taken control of bank accounts. Grandchildren who'd moved in and wouldn't leave. Relatives who made promises and then stole everything. What should I do? Each one asked. I gave them Dorothy's phone number. Talk to a lawyer who specializes in elder law. Find out your rights. You might have more power than you think. One woman, probably 80 years old, hugged me with tears in her eyes. I thought I was alone, she whispered. I thought nobody would believe me if I said my own son was stealing from me. I hugged her back. You're not alone. And people will believe you if you have evidence. Document everything. Record conversations if your state allows it. Keep copies of all papers. Protect yourself. Helping these people gave my life new meaning. The pain Emma caused wasn't wasted. It became wisdom I could share. Became warnings that might save others from the same betrayal. Became proof that survival was possible. My 69th birthday came and went quietly. Just me and Betty and Dorothy and a few friends from the senior center. We had cake and coffee in my living room, the room that was finally, completely legally mine. No Emma. No phone call. No card. Nothing. And that was okay. I'd learned that sometimes the best gift is peace. Safety. Is freedom from people who hurt you, even if those people are family. Make a wish, Betty said when I leaned forward to blow out the candles. I closed my eyes and wished for continued strength. For wisdom to help others. For a life well lived on my own terms. Then I blew out all 69 candles in one breath. My friends cheered. What did you wish for? Someone asked. Smiled. Can't tell or it won't come true. But really my wish had already come true. I was free. Independent. Strong. Living in my own home with my own money and my own choices. At 69 years old, I discovered I didn't need anyone to take care of me. I could take care of myself just fine. 1 year after the terrible Tuesday dinner, I drove past my old house. Wait, no. It was still my house. I meant I drove past my house just to see it from the outside like a stranger would. It looked good. The lawn was mowed. The roses were blooming. The paint was fresh. I'd hired a handyman to help with the heavy maintenance work, but I still did all my own gardening and decorating and daily care. The house reflected its freedom. Bright. Welcoming. Loved. I parked across the street and just sat there for a minute, remembering bringing baby Emma home from the hospital. Remembering her first steps on that front walkway. Remembering teaching her to ride a bike in that driveway. Remembering prom pictures on that porch. So many memories. Not all of them were poisoned by what came later. The good years were still real. The love I'd given was still genuine. Emma's betrayal didn't erase the decades of joy that came before it. A young family was walking down the sidewalk. Mother, father, 2 little kids. They stopped to admire my roses. Those are so pretty, Mama, the little girl said. The mother smiled. Maybe we'll have roses like that someday at our house. I rolled down my window. It takes years of care, I called to them. But it's worth it. Roses reward patience. The mother waved at me, friendly stranger to friendly stranger. That's what I was now. Just another older lady in the neighborhood. Not someone's burden. Not someone's target. Just me. Margaret. 69 years old. Survivor. Free woman. Protector of my own life. I drove home feeling peaceful. The past was the past. I couldn't change what Emma did. Couldn't make her into the daughter I'd hoped she'd be. But I could control my own life. My own choices. My own future. And that was enough. The trust paperwork sat in my file cabinet, marked revoked in red letters. Sometimes I'd take it out and look at it. Reminder of how close I'd come to losing everything. Reminder of why I had to stay vigilant. Reminder that love without boundaries is dangerous. Dorothy helped me create new estate planning documents. Simple will leaving everything to charities. No complications. No family drama. No expectations. When I die, I told Dorothy, I want my money to help people who need it. Single mothers. Kids who need college money. Shelters that protect families. That's my legacy. Dorothy added a special provision. If Emma ever contested the will, she'd get nothing. Any legal challenge would automatically disqualify her from any inheritance whatsoever. This protects your wishes even after you're gone, Dorothy explained. She can't swoop in after your death and claim you were incompetent when you wrote this. Do you think she'll try? Yes. Dorothy shrugged. I don't know. But this way you're protected either way. Protected even in death. That's what good planning meant. I signed the new documents feeling confident. My life's work would go to people who'd appreciate it. Who'd use it to build better lives. Who'd understand the value of sacrifice and hard work and love given freely without expectation of return. The women's shelter got the biggest portion. Enough to run the Margaret Wells family suite for decades. Enough to help hundreds of mothers escape bad situations and build new lives. Enough to matter. College scholarships got the next largest amount. 10 scholarships per year for kids from single-parent homes. Kids like Emma had been. Kids who deserved chances they couldn't afford. Kids whose parents worked multiple jobs but still couldn't make the numbers work. I started writing down my story. Not for publication. Just for me. For the record. So that someday, if anyone wondered why Margaret Wells left her daughter out of her will, they'd know the truth. They'd understand it wasn't about being petty or vindictive or cruel. It was about protecting myself. About setting boundaries. About saying no to exploitation even when it came from family. The writing was hard. Reliving those Tuesday dinners. Remembering the moment I heard Emma call me a burden. Describing the feeling of standing in my own garden recording strangers planning my life. But it was also healing. Each word put the pain outside of me. Turned it into story instead of shame. I included everything. The good years when Emma was little. The sacrifices I'd made willingly. The joy of watching her succeed. And then the shift. Questions. The manipulation. The betrayal. The fight to take back my life. All of it honest and raw and real. Betty read it when I finished. Sat in my kitchen with tears running down her face. Margaret, this is powerful, she said.